People wanting to leave town for the tournament.
Well, thank you. Thank you. There you go, Don. Might as well eat our way through the meeting.
Good evening. Good evening. Call the meeting to order. The meeting tonight will be televised and recorded. Again, we'll call the meeting to order of the Brookings County Planning and Zoning Commission, March 7th, 2019. First order of business is the approval of the minutes that were sent out previously in the mail. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
I didn't see who made the motion. Motion by Ford, second by Spence. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Items to be added to the agenda by commission members or staff. Mr. Hill, do you have anything?
Just my director's report. No.
Okay. Anything from the county commission? Okay, we'll move on. Invitations for citizens to schedule time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. Time is limited to 5 minutes per person to address the board. Is there anyone here that would like to visit with the board about anything that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. Disclosure of conflicts of interest, relationships to the applicant, or ex parte communication. Does anyone have any conflicts or anything they want to bring up? This is a new item on here, but we still have to go through it. Then the next item is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as read?
So move.
Motion by Bartley, second by Erickson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. I need to read the opening statement. The Brookings County Planning Commission is a 9-member commission whose function is to recommend approval or disapproval of land use plans, zoning ordinance, subdivision plats, and amendments thereof to the Brookings County Commission. The Commission makes its recommendations based upon the adoptive comprehensive plan for the physical development of the unincorporated areas of Brookings County. As a matter of policy, all motions are made in the positive. After a motion is moved and seconded, it is open for debate. Those supporting the motion shall, in turn, give their reasons. Those opposing the motion shall then offer their reasons. After everyone has been given a chance to be heard, the Commission shall recommend approval or disapproval based on the testimony and information presented. A simple majority vote of a quorum of members of the Planning and Zoning Board in attendance is required to forward a recommendation. And with that, we'll move on. Consideration of plats. 2019 Plat 004, plat of Lot 1, Olson Addition in the southeast 1/4, Section 6, Township 112 North, Range 47 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, Brookings County, South Dakota. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Davis,
Second.
second by Ford. Richard?
Yes, plat 2019004. Chad Olson is platting off 6 acres of an existing farmstead building site from the approximate 160 acres he owns, and it's located at 19685 485th Avenue. The farmstead will use the existing driveway located on 485th Avenue to access the property. And there is an access easement on the driveway for access to the farm ground and the grassland and pasture. The plat meets the platting requirements of the 2016 Comprehensive Plan for the unincorporated area of the Rural Land Area Use Statement on page 24 for agricultural land use. Just shows the front page of the plat. There's the driveway with the access easement on there. Goes around the trees. You'll see that in a minute when I go over the beacon map. This goes around the building site right there, and it does meet the setback requirements of the property line and the buildings, even though it's a little bit distorted on here, but the buildings do meet the setback requirements, so. And that's all that I have.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Is there someone here that's representing that plat?
No.
Okay. Questions from the board?
I'm assuming the property line there on the right-hand side is where the red line is drawn is not correct?
It's as close as it can get. Our maps are not to scale, so that's why I said it looks like the buildings are on the property line, but I checked with the surveyor and they are 25 feet from the property line, so.
Just for discussion purposes, how come with today's technology, how come someone didn't just jack that line farther over?
I don't know, that's what the surveyor came up with for the access easement going in and out of there, so. That's what the seller and the surveyor came up with, the width of the driveway there.
Further questions from the board? Open it up to the audience. Does anyone have any comments for or against? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion and go back to the board again. Questions, comments? Seeing none, Richard, call the roll.
Erickson,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Kleinjohn. Aye. Ford,
Aye.
Spence,
Aye.
Jensen,
Yes.
Bartley,
Aye.
and Rochelle.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And again, I need to read the opening statement. The Board of Adjustment is a 9-member board which has the power to hear requests for variances, conditional uses, appeals, and special exceptions. The concurring vote of 2/3 of the attending members is necessary for approval of any action by the board. A 9-member board requires 6 votes. A 6-member board requires 6 votes. In accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, we require a motion to approve a request before the request can be debated. As a matter of policy, all motions are made in the positive. The board, under specific powers granted by the state, shall authorize variances from the zoning requirements where special conditions existing on the land will result in unnecessary hardship for the applicant. Financial disadvantage to the property owner shall not constitute proof of unnecessary hardship. Agenda item number 8. 2019 conditional use 003, Wanzek Construction Incorporated by Tanya Lance has made an application 2019 conditional use 003 to the Brookings County Board of Adjustment for a conditional use. Article 11, Section 1101, A, Agricultural District. Conditional use permit number 6, contractors, shops, and yards. Property is described as the northwest 1/4, except H1, and except the south 338 feet of the west 850 feet, the north 486 feet, of the south 824 feet, of the west 305 feet, and the north 236 feet, of the south 574 feet, of the east 74 feet, of the west 379 feet, all in Section 14, Township 111 North, Range 49 West, which is Afton Township. And with that, is there a motion to approve?
Move approval?
A motion by Bartley,
Second.
second by Davis. Richard?
Yes. Conditional use 2019, conditional use CU 003. Wanzik Construction Incorporated by Tanya Lance has applied for an agricultural district conditional use number 6 for a contractor's yard or shop. The contractor's yard will be a temporary, will have an ending date of November 1st, 2019. The laydown yard will be used for wind tower blades, turbines, bases, supplies, and used during the construction phase of the Cow Ridge Wind LLC wind project. The blades, turbine, bases, and various components will be hauled in on trailers designed for that specific item. The trailers will be parked in a designated area and unhooked and stored there until they are hauled to their designated turbine site. The laydown yard is located on property known as the Wilmot Gravel Pit, which is 1.5 miles west of White on South Dakota State Highway 30. The various components will be hauled in on South Dakota Highway 30, headed east, turn south into the laydown yard. When the components are delivered to their site, they will turn east onto South Dakota Highway 30. The proposed driveway that would be used for entering and exiting the properties at the bottom of the hill on South Dakota 30. The applicant has contacted the South Dakota Department of Transportation regarding an access easement for widening the existing driveway approaches to accommodate the long loads and returning them back to the original design, and returning the approaches back to the original design once the project is completed. And the applicant will need to follow the South Dakota Department of Transportation requirements and guidelines for entering and exiting the property for this conditional use. I also may add they do have that permit has been approved by the South Dakota Department of Transportation, so that is, they have that completed. And the applicant has the proposed site plan, which is attached to this permit. Public notices were published in the Brookings Register on February 19th and 26th, 2019, and the White Tri-City Star on February 21st and 28th, 2019. Letters were sent to the adjoining landowners, the South Dakota Department of Transportation, the landowner, and the Afton Township Chairman and Clerk. And we did receive, at the end, I'll go over 2 comments that were received from adjoining landowners. Is there a conditional use request? This is the proposed site right here. This is South Dakota Highway 30. This will be the driveway that will be used. Come in and enter here and go up to here to the staging area. Come around and they'll exit this lane over here, back out onto Highway 30. Just kind of a big circle once they get there. This is their site plan. That goes over what I just said. They come in and enter right here, come in along this path, driveway, over to the staging area. Well, they'll be unhooked and stored temporarily till they're ready to be moved to the permanent site. Exit out this lane, back onto Highway 30. You can see here the proposed widening of the approach so they can make the turn without going into the opposite lane of traffic. With these big trucks, there's usually these pilot cars in front and behind of these also when they deliver those down the road. So just a little closer up view of the driveway access. Again, coming in here on the red arrows and exiting on the blue back out this way. This is just looking from driveway looking towards the west, nice flat area. This is looking towards the east at the base. Up here's the crest of the hill. This is just looking towards the south from the driveway into the staging area. Same way here, south, southeast. Back in this area is the staging area. I'll read the two comments we received, which you also have in front of you tonight. I laid them, everyone has a copy of those that was laid in front of your chair this evening. First comment was received on February 22nd, 2019 from Mr. Smith. (3:47 p.m.) Robert Smith, an adjoining landowner who called in to inquire as to the request made by Wanzig Construction Incorporated. He had no concerns and notes that he is for all projects that are for the betterment of the county and the townships. On March 6th, adjoining landowner Jim Hagedorn visited the zoning office and has no concerns or objections to the conditional use request. And we do have a copy of the signed application for highway access permit for the South Dakota Department of Transportation. It is signed by all the appropriate parties and signed right here by a representative of the South Dakota Department of Transportation. So as a document that they will have to meet the state DOT requirements for changing and making the entrances bigger and then removing them once the project is done back to the original standards. So, and that's all that I have.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Is there a representative here? Would you please come forward and state your name, please?
Good evening. I'm Aaron Krenz with Wanzig Construction. I am the project manager representing Wanzig for the Coyote Ridge Wind Farm. I was a big part of this application process along with Tanya, and put together the drawings and things with the engineers to make this thing a possibility. Mainly it's, I guess, anybody have any questions on it, I guess would be my piece. I know Richard and I have been working quite a bit on it. The original lay-down yard was proposed in a different area. Due to subsurface conditions, we have moved it. So we have better access, and we don't leave anything behind. We were originally going to be having to possibly cement stabilize the area to get good subsurface conditions to drive the heavy trucks on it. And with this, we have a stabilized subgrade in the gravel pit, access to gravel to make a lay-down yard, and it also helps out the Wilmots by paying them a little bit to use their gravel, use their area, so it is kicking back a little bit to those individuals as well as part of the local spending plan. So,
Okay. Could you pull the mic a little closer to your mouth, or yeah, sit closer?
how about I
Thank
scoot
you.
forward?
Yeah, questions or comments from the commission? Mr. Spence?
Considering there is a hill crest there, especially, will there be road signage indicating that there will be large equipment coming and going?
Yes, that could be added to that. It depends if what the Department of Transportation says, trucks entering or exiting. Yes, that could be added to that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mr. Spence,
Hill?
it is a state highway, so we'll have to meet state standards on marking and everything.
Further questions? Well, while the commission is thinking about questions, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak? We need to open it up to the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against or make a comment on this application? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion. Go back to the Planning Commission members? Mr. Bartley?
I would point out that this application obviously meets the conditional use permit number 6 of contractor shops and yards. I believe it's a yard. It's a contractor's yard. It's temporary. It certainly meets the criteria. I see no reason that we would want to deny this. Your entry coming in and out, the temporary surfaces obviously have to be built to handle the heavy equipment. Is it going to be an asphalt base of some sort? And
Correct.
is it required, would it be required by the State Department of Transportation to remove that afterwards because the driveway's too wide?
Yes, so Todd at the Department of Transportation up in Watertown, him and I went through this in length in person.
Okay.
And we talked about, the width of it, and it will be restored to the original condition as of today. You know what I mean? As it is today, it'll be restored to that condition when we're completed.
The original condition today is the width that would be allowed,
Correct.
or is it narrower than the width would be allowed?
It'll be, the width, the driveway that's there now meets DOT specifications, so it'll be returned to, we'll take the way it is now, take measurements and return it to that. That's what the Wilmots would like as well. So they want it returned to the same width and, gravel on it and restoration of the vegetation as well.
Is that document in this application?
It is part of the South Dakota DOT piece, yeah.
It is part of their piece, so
Yep.
That's a finding of facts for us, I guess.
Yep.
More than anything else, I want to make sure that
Yep.
those things are findings of fact.
I believe he put some
Noted.
plates in there as well for construction further down in the application.
It says according to attachment A. There we go. That's the part I didn't see.
Is this moving it from 482nd Avenue over to there? Is that where you're moving it from?
Yeah, 43rd. So there was a conditional use done for that as well, and that one will not be used. That site will not be developed.
I have to comment, I sure like the location where you're setting up here because it's some rather large objects and with the snowfall that we've had, it sure is nice to have that all sitting a long ways away from the highway. So even though this is all temporary, it's still can affect the roads if we get close to the road. So.
Right.
Further comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, Richard will go through the findings.
Meets our standard findings, and I'll read the extra statements on page 3. Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finds that satisfactory provisions and arrangements have been made concerning the following where applicable. A, entrance and exits to the property and proposed structures therein, with particular reference to automotive and pedestrian safety and convenience, traffic flow control and access in case of fire or catastrophe. Entrance and exit of the property will be off South Dakota Highway 30. Must abide by approved South Dakota Department of Transportation highway access permit and modified areas to be returned to the original condition after the completion of the project. B, off-street parking and loading areas were required with particular attention to the items in A above with the economic, noise, glare, and other effects, with special exceptions on adjoining properties and properties generally in the same district. No on-street parking. C, utilities, refuge, and service areas with reference to locations, availability, and compatibility. We just have must use the trash or garbage service for out there. D, screening and buffering with reference to type, dimensions, and character. None stated. E, signs, if any, proposed exterior lighting with reference to glare, traffic safety, economic effect, and compatibility and harmony with properties in the district. 16 square foot sign allowed, and any required safety and regulatory signs. That's where the trucks entering signs would come in that would be allowed to be put up there to meet, to install those if they're needed. F, required yards and other open spaces, none stated. G, general compatibility, properties in other districts meets requirements of the comprehensive plan for the agricultural district. Number 4, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further determines and conditions this conditional use upon the following additional conditions, special conditions or safeguards. A, South Dakota Department of Transportation approved access permit for South Dakota Highway 30 required. B, modified South Dakota Highway 30 access to be returned to the original design and meet South Dakota Department of Transportation inspection once the project is completed. C, portable toilets must be anchored down. D, abide by all traffic laws. E, dust control on the site and haul roads as needed. H, once the project is completed, the area must be cleaned and returned to the original condition and use. The Brookings County Board of Adjustment, by at least 2/3 vote of its full membership, hereby grants the petitioner a conditional use permit for the above described real property as follows. Laydown yard to be used for tower bases, turbines, turbine blades, and related components during the construction of the Coyote Ridge Wind LLC, and will expire on November 1st, 2019. This conditional use permit is specifically conditioned upon initial and continued compliance with all the requirements and conditions in 3 and 4 above, and upon compliance with all applicable provisions of the Brookings County zoning ordinance. The Brookings County zoning director is, if approved, is authorized to issue any building permit required for permits for construction consistent with the requirements of this conditional use permit. If this conditional use permit is not used within 3 years of the date granted, it shall be invalid, dated the 7th day of March, 2019.
Any comments from the board?
Expiration date
Findings?
of November 1st of 19 was
Correct.
your suggested completion date?
We're scheduled to be done August 24th
Oh, great.
with turbine installation, and then following reclaim, and taking out yards. So that's why we did it till November 1st, to
Okay.
give us a little leeway if needed.
Okay, so the last statement we have that this conditional use if not used in 3 years obviously doesn't apply because it's not
Correct.
used. It'll expire November 1st anyway. That's just a point.
Okay, Richard, call the roll.
Bartley,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Kleinjohn,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Spence,
Aye.
Jensen. Yes. And Rochelle.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Moving on, agenda item number 9, department reports. Mr. Hill?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First of all, next week there is training going on in Pierre. Is any of the board members planning on going to it? Other, what we plan on doing is, right now we've got a light schedule in April. So we are going to try to get the training brought down here in April to us during our planning meeting. So if you see a small agenda, don't get excited because Mr. Mueller likes to talk and hear himself talk both. So we're gonna request that he brings the training down here if we can't get anybody to go out.
Business engagements that night.
Next up, this is more emergency management related, but I want, since you're planning and zoning, I feel you need to know it because I didn't see many of you at the township meeting today. We are expecting to have 2011 type flooding going on. That was our last FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, declared disaster. As we get closer to it, my office will be preparing packets to be sent out to the township clerk and chairman of each township. Photographs are very important. I realize most of you got cameras on your phone. If you do have a flip phone, you might want to get your grandchild or someone that's got a new phone to go out and take the pictures for you. It is vitally important that you get photographs taken before you replace gravel and culverts and things like that. We want to see the before and the after photographs so that we can do the best for you to try to get as much money for you as we can. Obviously, you got to keep all your receipts and invoices. In the packet that I mail out to you, and the reason we're not giving it to you now is we're still waiting for the instructions from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. You'll be given 2 maps to annotate. There would just be regular plat maps like everyone has at home. And those maps, I'll have to have both of the maps back. One will be stamped and given back to you, and the other one will be stamped and given to FEMA. And that way, you would know what I'm dealing with. When we're submitting our paperwork to FEMA, you've got a copy of the map. So that's just to keep us both on the same sheet of music so that we're talking the same language. Is why that is. The maps have to be annotated where you have water running over the road, where you got a washout, where you got a culvert blown. All that has to be written on your maps. You know, you can put like a letter A, B, C, D, and then in the margin or in the back, write more detailed. It does need to be detailed, such as, 200 feet of road washed out, and we had to replace how many loads of gravel, and an 18-inch culvert, 30 feet long, washed out in this area, and like that. That all has to be clearly stated and written so we can read it. And last but not least, the James River Valley right now is under, we're fairly confident we're going to have major flooding, and the Big Sioux River from Brookings south. So we are in the major flooding part, and that means we'll probably get all that crap from Watertown. And that's all I got, Mr. Chairman. If you have any questions during this time, all you have to do is stop by the office. Ray Lynn, of course, is my front person at the desk. And if I'm in there, I'll take care of you. If not, Ray Lynn will take care of you, Ray Lynn and Richard. And there's a chance I may be out of the office quite a bit. If there is flooding, just driving around helping townships do the paperwork. But everyone's important, and we want to get it done right, and we want to get as much money as we can for our citizens. Documentation. That's all I have. Does Mr. Mueller have anything on piggyback by chance? Shortly?
No, the training, as you mentioned, going on Wednesday afternoon, sounds like weather's not going to be awesome. If that does change, I do encourage you to figure out a way to get out there. Hopefully they'll be able to take you out there, because I will do my best impression of the 4 other speakers. I can certainly talk for 4 other people, but I think that it might be more entertaining to hear from them if you can make it. Otherwise, I'll do my best to do my impression following up a couple weeks later.
And that concludes our report. Richard, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just one thing with the weather this year. Over at Kodiak Park, we approved that facility and also a substation that was, and they allowed a variance so it was closer to the road. They have trees planted back behind there, but they're not tall enough yet to block any of the snow. Right now, we do have a substantial snow drift or snow bank right there beside that substation. So that's something we just need to keep in mind as we go forward is, the placement of those, how close to the road they are, because they do create a snow bank in winters like this. So, and that's all that I have.
Excuse me, I don't live too far from there, and I drive by and I see this snowbank that's probably 8 feet high because of that substation that's too close. And I do recall questioning the power company on that, and they insisted that it had to be right next to the overhead power lines. And when I look at that, there's overhead wires going from there to the substation, and it just would have been another 50 feet of wire. I don't see how that could be such a problem. So I think in the future, it may be best to keep everything, even the substation, farther away to keep that snowdrift from getting over the top of a county road in this situation. So something to think about for the future.
And I did visit with the landowner there, and next fall they're going to put a snow fence up farther back to try to help alleviate that problem until the trees get growing up. So they are working with us. They would be happy to do that, they said. So.
And that concludes our report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Executive, it says, agenda item number 10, executive session if necessary. I don't believe we have any need for an executive session.
No, sir.
So with that, does anyone on the commission have anything else tonight? Then we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Jensen. Who seconded it? Second by Mr. Ford. Meeting adjourned.